Okay, guys, today we have a very special guest, someone that I actually been stalking on social media for probably about 8 or 9 months. I'm constantly following Miss Chanel Hudson. I can't wait to talk to you guys about her wedding because that's really when I got hooked. But before I do that, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to introduce my co-host, which you guys already know who we are, but I'm Raquel, my co-host Malik. We're here tonight and we're super excited. But before we get going, Malik is going to give you that good shout out for the people, for our kids, community, and what's going on in current events.
Yes. So the shout out tonight goes to our mayor here in Atlanta, Mayor Andre Dickens. So it's the 8th year of the youth. That was announced by our mayor, Andre Dickens. He said that they are teaming up with Destination Tomorrow to launch one of its first kind LGBTQ youth mentorship pilot here in Atlanta. This pilot program recognizes the unique challenges faced by LGBTQ youth ages 16 through 25 and seeks to create a safe and inclusive space where they can thrive and develop their potential. Through the program, the LGBTQ youth will be paired with experienced mentors who will provide guidance, support, and a nurturing environment for mentees to discuss their challenges, aspirations, and personal growth. Andre Dickens, that's the shout out for tonight. Mayor Andre Dickens, Atlanta.
It's so dope, especially with all the stuff we have going on with the government trying to tell parents how to parent their transgender children. And here, I'm in the state of South Carolina. We have a very large population of LGBTQIA children, but now the trans number is it's skyrocketing. So we need more programs like that. Obviously, we don't have enough of them, and we really got to figure out how to get folk out to vote so that the government doesn't dictate what parents are doing with their children. Before we get started, we always say this, Chanel, we lead with love, and this is a safe place. We do this for our people and it's by our people. It's for us and it's by us. Our goal is to educate. A lot of times people talk about us and they have no idea who we are, what we do. So we lead with love, and this is a safe place. We have lots of conversations about mental and physical health. The HIV epidemic is nuts in Atlanta right now. Really all southern states. Alabama is pretty bad. But we talk about community as well and how important it is for us to support each other as a community. Too often we are biased against each other within the LGBTQIA community. We treat each other indifferent, and then we want to go into the world and expect them to treat us better. So we lead with love, and we always want this to be a safe place for our people. Chanel, I want you to introduce yourself before I get into my questions, because you were already giving us tea, honey, before we started recording tonight. So introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Chanel Hudson O'Connor. I'm 30-something, originally from South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, by way of Wellington. And now I am in Georgia, in a remote location south of the city. Professionally, I am the CEO of a thriving, let's just be clear. I'm the CEO and founder of a public relations agency, but I have semi-retired from fully taking on clients in the PR world. And I have kind of transitioned maybe like 80% of my time into television and film. So I hold space. I'm the first trans woman of color to executive or co-executive a major crime documentary for network television. And I'm a humble soul, always willing to share and learn and educate and connect and just those things. But yeah, I'm not really good at talking about myself. I have to hype myself up. Like when I do my videos, I be having it like, okay, girl, you gotta hype. Yeah. I have to like hype myself up because I just, my whole life, I didn't really get validated until later on in life. So I have to, remind myself of who I am. I have to sometimes sit down and go through my resume and read through the things that I've done whenever I'm feeling down or out. So I'm just a really dope individual with a really dope perspective. And
I agree with that. You dope as fuck. Like I said, I follow you, and I've been following you for about 8 months, maybe 9 months. I don't know. It's been a while.
yeah.
So it's an honor to have me on the show. I am very much so aware of all the things that you do. We could talk about so many things. So this conversation go left or right is totally okay. I want you to be yourself, and I want you to be all of who you are in this conversation. So there's nothing off limits. The subject matter we wanted to talk about tonight, and we will talk about it, but I also want to go back to one of the things we were talking about while we were off air. You talked about your childhood and some of the things that happened to you as a child. And I think it kind of ties into some heartbreak in some of your choices, with maybe partners. And I could be wrong, but
not partners. I married my first boyfriend ever. Like that, my husband. My first real relationship is my first real boyfriend. I tell people he's the first man to break my heart. He's the first man to fix my heart. And he's the first man to like change my heart. So he's my first everything, literally, in my transness.
So wait a minute. When you say first sexual?
No.
Mm-mm. Oh no, I was gonna say that. Okay. I'm
not a virgin. Not the Virgin Mary now, child. Not the Virgin Mary now, child.
So let's start with childhood.
Okay.
What that was like, and not being validated, and kind of some of the ups and downs of just going through trying to be exactly who you are.
Well, okay. My childhood is very complex. I am the first American born in my family. My family's Jamaican. They all lived in Jamaica. They migrated to America with the church, and like the church setting. My father came as like a pastor, and he just kind of worked his way up. And I feel like when I came into the world, my parents were kind of already like stuck on the idea of wanting to have a girl. I'm gonna take this off. Wanting to have a girl, and I just felt disregarded. Like my whole life, I've always felt disregarded. But I've always been the smartest in the room. I've always been the nerdiest. I've always been the most inquisitive. But my whole life, I've just felt disregarded. To sum it up, I felt disregarded. And from that, it kind of came like a downward spiral of like black market hormones and me actually transitioning before I had like proper medical advice. So my transition story, even so from childhood up, is crazy because I started taking hormones when I was 11.
Hey, how'd you get them?
Black market. I would sneak out. I had a fake ID, and I was very mature. You have to think, I'm a latchkey kid. So I was born like in 89. And most latchkey kids by 7, 8 years old, you're going home. You're at home for hours before parents come home. You got to cook your little noodles or make your little dinner, a little snack until your parents come. You learn how to do things. So that was my life. And my parents being Jamaican, we matured very early because we didn't have the luxury of like, I don't know, like, I guess being children to my parents, I guess like the normal stuff that kids would do, like go to the playground or play video games or watch, television. I was not allowed to watch secular TV. I was not allowed to listen to secular music. I was not allowed to listen to anything that was outside of the gospel realm of Christianity. So that's how my life became so mature. So by the time I was 11, I was hanging out with people who were, 16, 17, 18. And then when you meet certain people, you get introduced to certain things and you lie about your age. So at 11, I was like, yeah, I'm 14, 15, about to be 16. And that's the harsh reality of it. And I'm not a victim of the whole process of hormone replacement therapy, but I wish I would have had parents to care enough to hear my concerns to where I didn't have to go run and try to find validation through something that didn't serve me at that time. So I would say it was a combination of me like not really having guidance or not really having like, I didn't have LGBTQ members. I didn't know anything about the gay family. I didn't know anything about that coming up in South Florida. And I live in a predominantly Caucasian kind of area. So it wasn't much. And the people that I did meet in LGBT were either quiet about what they did or we had to sneak out together. So we kind of was like on the down low with it, for real, especially me. Sneaking out of my house at 12 years old with a duffel bag filled with heels and dresses and, you know, my little makeup bag, doing my makeup and all of like, you know, 20 minutes in the car with my friend. You just kind of like, you know, become normal and then getting caught when I come back home. And then my mother catching me and her going crazy, going to all these psychotherapists in the city to see if there's something mentally wrong with me, sending me to another country where the curriculum was different, which is found out to be more of a conversion educational system to where it's like, you're feminine, we're going to beat you, or if you're to whatever. So they sent me there. Then I went to a boarding school where I got raped by a white boy. So I feel like my parents saw early on maybe that I was different and probably was like, I don't know what to do with this child. And they started sending me to these places. Like, I didn't grow up in I didn't know about certain African-American cultures until I got to Morehouse. I learned really about Black culture. So
did you go to Morehouse?
I did.
Wow.
So wait, go back. You said you were raped by a little white boy. How old were you?
Well, he was older than me. So my parents sent me to a boarding school in Hollywood, Florida. I'm not going to say the name. I want to talk about it like in depth one day because that was like really traumatizing. But it was this Presbyterian Christian. It was right up the street from where Anna Nicole Smith overdosed. I remember exactly where I was when she overdosed because you can walk to the hotel that she overdosed at. And I used to wake up with semen on my face. Like, I would just wake up. It was a boarding school. It was an all-boys boarding school. It was basically, you go there on Sunday, you get picked up on Friday. If your parents come pick you up, then you're in there for the weekend. And it's very Presbyterian Christian, like, Holy Father, our hands to God, and we thank you. Very much that. And, you know, I'm Pentecostal. I was raised Pentecostal. So I'm like, why would they send me to somewhere that's this type of Christian? This is, you know, Bible Christian. Like, you know, them.
They different.
Like,
they did.
Yeah.
It's a different breed. And I went there and for days I would wake up and I would have stuff on my face. Mind you, at 11, 12 years old, I didn't know what cum was. I didn't know what semen was. I didn't have the birds and the bees talk. I lost my virginity to a member of my family who happens to be a woman. So I didn't have experience. My sexual experiences came from my sexual experiences or being exposed to stuff. I didn't have someone tell me if someone touches you here, or I didn't have that. My parents just was like, oh, you know, it is what it is. I don't know. I can't explain it. Like, I don't remember having the birds and the bees talk with my parents.
Right.
Where they told us to be careful of predators and stuff like that. So my mind was curious, but when I would start to see like semen on my face, I couldn't put two and two together that it was semen. I just was like, is it drool? But every day, and it would be like just thick and it had an odor to it. And I just remember waking up and it would be like in my nose area, and I would like wipe it. And I would just think it was like snot, or maybe I was sweating, or maybe I sneezed in my sleep, and it was just reoccurring. And then one day I decided to stay up because my head was hurting me. And then that's when I basically heard like noises, and I turned around and he was like in my face, like masturbating. And then I like looked at him, and that night that I woke up, he grabbed the back of my head and like forced me to like give him fellatio. And I was like choking. I threw up. My throat was on fire. It was just a very like unpleasant feeling. And then he like, you know, ejaculated in my mouth. I threw up. It was so disgusting. And I remember I cut myself so that my mom could come and in the middle of the night take me to the emergency room. And I just remember saying, I don't want to go back to that place. And my mother was like, well, you have no choice. I'm like, but why? I'm a straight A student. In her mind, I had behavioral issues, but what child doesn't have hyperactive energy? Or if I ask a question about something I'm curious about, what child doesn't do that? My son now asks questions all the time that I would probably get crucified for asking back then. So I didn't have an escape. She brought me right back to the same place. And then it was horrific. Like I was terrified. Essentially, I ended up saying some really nasty things about the program director's wife, and that's how I got expelled from the program.
So
you mentioned that your first sexual encounter though was with someone in your family, and it was a female. How old were you then?
Maybe like 10, 11.
And you never felt comfortable enough to tell your parents what was happening?
Never. When I was 13, I told my father that I was molested at the boarding school they paid all this money for me to go to, and he basically cursed me for like "batty boy" and "you make man touch you," and it wasn't like a sense of like what happened. And my mom kind of said something to him. I told my mom in confidence because my mom and my dad are different. My mom's more of like the gentle parent, but she's still Jamaican. And super Pentecostal. My dad is, sorry. Are you recording? I'm sorry, that's my husband. My dad is hardcore, no love, never heard I love you, never heard, like, just, so it's about it. I'm like, okay, let me tell my mama. Wow. Because she's the gentle one, but my mistake was she's a worse Christian than my daddy is, because in her belief, she believes that she supports anything that the Bible is against. She's condemning herself too. Mm-hmm. So I told my mom, she freaked, called my dad. And then that's like the first time I got called in Jamaican word the faggot. And it was hell. He ransacked my room. They had already kind of caught me sneaking out of the house or sneaking back into the house with women's clothing and makeup and stuff. So I just was like, okay, well, maybe they're just, in disbelief. But I was really traumatized, and it just went bad. I remember that night very vividly when my mom went and ran, and I'm like, please don't tell him. And even to this day, like, I don't have a relationship with either one of them, but I always question, like, why would she tell this man something? And she's supposed to be my protector, knowing the type of man he was. And very abusive, very loud, very verbal, just very nasty. Just, he didn't like white people, certain white people he didn't like, and he pretended to like them because of his career. It was just very complex. But I was always like the child that was like, I'm going to love everyone. I don't care what color their skin is. I don't care what the person is. I'm not going to discriminate. But then as I started to get older, I started to realize that I have really bad internalized homophobia, internalized straight phobia. I'm good now, but going into Morehouse, it really blossomed with like all of the hate that I got from over the years. It kind of transferred over to how I looked at gay men and trans women, and how I looked at lesbian women, and how I looked at people. When I was deep down inside, knowing what my truth was, I projected that internalized homophobia that my parents gave me, even though I was on hormones, even though I don't have an Adam's apple, even though I had started growing boobs, so yeah.
So you don't have a relationship with your parent like today now? No? When the last time you saw or talked to them?
So there's this thing that so I'm just going to be transparent. For a long time, I used to draw a fake beard on my face. When I came from Morehouse, I was more on the feminine side, just being myself. Even at Morehouse, me wearing lip gloss was too much. But when I started my career, no one really wanted to hire me as my true self. And then all these opportunities of escorting presented itself. And I said, okay, well, this is what the trans community seems to be doing. Let me see what it looks like. And I posted an ad, and this old white guy hit me up. And I'm not a vain person, but I just don't cross boundaries with certain people. Like, I can't have sex with grandpa. I can't. It traumatizes me based on my own upbringing. I can't do it. Shout out to all my sex worker sisters and escort sisters and OnlyFans sisters who do that. I can't.
$100,000 you wouldn't.
It doesn't sit well with my spirit.
Oh. Did you hear
like growing up in the church and stuff, and you're around the elders in the Pentecostal church, and you become close to these people,
$100,000.
Right. And for me, after this, it's so crazy you said that because my rate was at the time. I was like, I want 25,000. I want 20 because I didn't know. You name my price. I know my worth. I know what I know. I got some little good 25,000, and I'm a woman. Ain't gonna be no penetration from this end. None of that. None of that. I want a man. If you're not a man, we could find somebody else for you. And he came to the house. I came downstairs fully clothed. Like, no, like fully clothed with a bonnet on. Because in my mind, I just thought, take me as I am. So I come downstairs and he was like, you have heels or do you have, I said, I said, I don't like wearing heels. I'm a tall girl. I'm 6'4". What do I need heels for? I mean, I walk into the room, short girls wear heels so they could be tall. What do I need to wear heels for? That's like some type of fetish. Me being blind to everything, I start asking this man about himself. I went to the Morehouse for psychology. So I start asking him questions like, does your wife, do you have a wife? And this man poured his heart out to me on my couch and was crying. It turned into a Dr. Phil session. And afterwards, he got up and left. And he was like, this is the first time I've had this type of encounter. And I need the money for my rent. And I didn't tell him I need the money for my rent because I'm not going to lie. In that moment of me talking to him and this man opening up and telling me why he cheats on his wife and stuff, I felt like that was God placing me there to help this man, even though he was old enough to be my grandfather. It was still like an exchange. And we spoke for like 3 hours. Like we talked. And he poured his heart out. When he left $1,500 on the little thing. Even to this day, his wife calls my phone. And, yes, to this day.
Girl,
I promise you, to this day. His wife always says I saved her marriage. Because she knew he was cheating. The wife ended up calling me and she said her husband told her everything, basically. Because the way that I spoke to him, I basically was compelling him to just be true, just living your truth. You know what I'm saying? And his wife had issues with cancer and she wasn't sexually, active anymore. So the wife understood the openness of the relationship, but she ended up calling me and she was just like, her husband had mentioned about her encounter. And he just, instead of focusing on his wife and her recovery of health, he focused on satisfying his own needs. And he wasn't doing it out of spite. He was doing it because his wife was not able to perform. So I said to him, what would it look like if you just put that energy into your wife and that love that you have? She ended up beating the cancer. She ended up going into remission. They ended up renewing their vows. And I mean, I went to their house one Thanksgiving, maybe like 2016, 2015. I went to their house. They invited me to Thanksgiving, even to this day.
Wow. Okay.
So that's how I know escorting and sex work was not for me. I would have taken
You talking for
Ariana fixed my life. It would have been Chanel fixed my life on the escort tour. And I was like, Chanel, you're going to have to come up with something like this escort ain't going to work for you. And mind you, at the time, there were trans women telling me, girl, you fish, you big cunt, you could do dominatrix stuff. And I was like, y'all get on the road on the Jamaica bus or rent the car and drive from state to state, post your ass. You don't know who coming in the room. My life was not set up for that. So I knew that wasn't for me. But then I started drawing the fake beard on my face. And the fake beard is what got me. Yes, a fake beard. I Googled like the Beijing method and I went and got this stuff. I have videos on my TikTok. I have videos on my Facebook. And I would just take the thing and I would make hair strokes and I would like put little patches of hair on my face and I would just draw it in and I would just look like a whole man. And when that happened, the doors of my career opened up. I worked with every celebrity, every TV show, everything. I didn't want nobody to call me by my trans name. It was my dead name. It was almost like separating church and state. And I called myself the Trojan horse because who was going to accept me as a trans person? I couldn't be an escort. I can't be homeless. I'm too big to be homeless. I'm saying I have been homeless before.
crazy.
But it's not, listen, when you're a big girl, it's a little bit different when you're a big girl and you're homeless than when you like, a small, skinny person that could just fit in the small spaces. I'm not afraid of just could come and sleep on your couch. I'm big. I need a bed. or a hotel room or a room, a guest room. And back then, my friends didn't have that. You know what I'm saying? So I was, no. Mm-mm. And I've been homeless now. Don't get it wrong. I've been homeless. So I could tell you by experience, I'm too big to be homeless. And for my big girls out there watching this, you know what I'm talking about. The meals don't just be mealing. The little 1-2 sandwiches ain't gonna work. When you're homeless, you need 3 meals a day to maintain your auntie bigness. And they just
That's exactly big.
get that.
Well,
So I have to sacrifice my transition in order to eat crab legs and shrimp on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. It was depressing.
I'm glad you let the escort thing go, because you're right. You were going to be going through therapy.
But let me tell you something. I would have been the Lizzo escorting. If God had put it in my spirit, without the sexual assault allegation, if God had put it in my spirit to be that promiscuous with, and mind you, my mother's story, but if you heard about my mom, you will understand. My mother got married to my father. She was a virgin. She didn't get married until she was older. Like, my mom is a virtuous. When I say, like, live by the Bible, don't wear heels past 3 inches, don't perm her hair, don't eat pork, don't eat shellfish. She's by the book Bible, and that's who raised me. So for me, I never saw a promiscuous woman using her body to get what she wants. My mother would always talk her way out of things, or we would see a homeless person. Instead of giving a homeless person food, she would tell them about the love of God. And I'll be like, well, just give them the $2. And she'll be like, they could go and get drugs and stuff. I'm like, but Mom, they're still poor. Loving God is not going to get them a meal. The little $2 might, so my mom, I didn't grow up with but if God had allowed me to fall into my promiscuity back then, I would be the Lizzo of escorts. And I still would be one. I would be proud. I would tell everybody I was the model. I would have my boobs up to here, rounded out. Yup.
Yeah, them everything they want.
I would have to fix a flat butt. I sure would have to fix a flat butt. I'm serious. I would have the cheeks. I'm serious. I would, but
I believe you for some reason. I believe you. Let's switch gears just slightly. I want to talk about heartbreak, because you mentioned that your husband was everything. He fixed it. He broke it. He married. I mean, he was everything. So let's talk about, what does heartbreak look like?
So the first man to ever break my heart was my father.
Yeah.
And then the second man to ever break my heart was my 2 brothers. So, and that was them abandoning their responsibility to be my family member and to carry me through life and to help me go through situations. So I never really had a desire to be in love, fall in love, or want love, because I truly have been heartbroken since I could go back to 9-10 years old. And I'm not like truly heartbroken when it comes to men.
Mm-hmm.
I've always known I was different. And I'm not going to say different in the terms of, you're gay first. And no. I've always known that I was different. I just never had a safe space to express my differentness. So I compressed it and I internalized how I felt about it, and I would project it. So for me, heartbreak came from the people that were supposed to give me the safe space to be myself. When I met my husband, I friend zoned him. Like, we're friends because I'm not interested. I fell in love with my career. When I started my career, I asked God to render me selfless. And all the doors started opening up for my career. And I didn't make a whole lot of money when I started, but I ended up in the rooms with Kevin Hart and Regina, King and Gabrielle Union and Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry and, Forrest Whitaker and all of these big names. I've worked on so many big movie campaigns that my career was my art. So when I met a man, it wasn't about supplementing anything other than the assignment that I got from God is, I have rendered you selfless and now you're going to work. And that had been my life. So when I met my husband, I didn't want a boyfriend. I would test him to see what his mind was at. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to play this game with you. We're just going to be friends. And I think even for him, it was like, what you mean? Because even back then, like, he was hooking up with girls and stuff, and they don't have no friendship. It's, what if Foxy Brown say, fuck him, check straight to the neck? You know what I'm saying? Like, it gave that. So I was like, no. we're going to be friends and that's it. If we have sex, I'm going to treat you like a whore. I told him.
So wait a minute. When did he find out you were trans?
I'm not good at lying. So I'm a horrible liar. Horrible. So I told him like the first day I met him, I actually told him when I met him, like, this is probably another reason why I didn't take him serious. I was like, and I had to explain this to him. I'm like, so I have to draw a fake beard on my face to go to work. And this is when I was working with like Love and Hip Hop talent, Married to Medicine talent, Bravo talent. And he was like, what you mean? I'm like, I have to draw this beard on my face to go to work. And he didn't understand it because he's looking at me not being anything but what he sees now.
Right.
And I'll be like, babe, it's complicated. I don't plan on doing this forever, but I have a plan. And he thought it was so weird. And I didn't hear from him after that. So maybe I thought like, oh, he ain't gonna be into me. Because in his mind, he probably thought like I'm a gay boy trying to portray to be a girl and he's not gonna want that. And I couldn't explain it to him any other way other than I have to draw a fake beard on my face. And then one day I sent him a picture of the fake beard and he was like, who is that? I'm like, that's me. And, I explained to him and I was in a very vulnerable place and all I wanted to do was be able to keep working so I could pay my bills because I did not want to escort. So I didn't think about what a man could do for me. I just kept thinking about what God had already done for me in this position. And I just had to keep going if I wanted to reach a goal. So when he would come around, I wouldn't have anything on because of course it was fake. So I would come home, wipe, or in the car, I would always have wipe with me and some makeup remover and I would just take it off if I was to see him. But I told him like very straight up, like, listen, I'm a trans woman. I have no desire to want anything from you. I'm not looking for sex. I got a whole roster of niggas, excuse my French, but I don't need, just anything. And he was like, all right, well, and you could tell he was head to me, but I just didn't give him that. I didn't give him that. I was like, oh, no.
But did he have questions? Like,
he had a lot of questions.
I'm sure.
And I answered them. I mean, of course, they always ask about like, the private part.
You gotta.
Do you have and my whole thing is, well, if you saw me in the street, would you ask me if I have that? And he said, no. I thought, oh, okay. I said, even if I did have one, even if I don't have one, it's none of your business, number one, until we get married. And number two, you'll never see it, ever. I haven't masturbated in years. I don't do that. I don't touch myself.
You are definitely a church girl. My God.
Touching myself was like one of those like, oh, so I don't do that. That's not something I pleasure in. I'm not attached to sex. Even for me, like I'm always looking to make sure the other person is pleased with my, whatever I can do. But when it comes to my body, don't touch nothing. You can touch my boobs, but and of course.
So he's never seen it?
Never.
How long y'all been together?
Going on 7.5 years.
How?
You just know how to maneuver, like, and there's certain things like now, it's different now. Before it was, a process without getting too much into it. But
right.
I've been putting off my bottom surgery for a long time. Because I just felt like over the time there'd be more advanced technology for it. Because back then it was just everyone was getting it too quickly. And I'm scared of stuff like that. So I just explained to him like, hey, this is what I have, but this is not a part of me. I'm dormant from it. It doesn't move. Nothing happens. So you don't have to worry about you just learn how to maneuver. You just learn how to maneuver. And if he has seen it, he has to make it a big deal because he knows I'm detached from it. It's different, I think, for trans women if they, masturbate or they need to bust a nut or they have that urge, that urge on the inside. And I'm not taking away from people having that urge. I just don't have that. So I don't have that. That sensation part of it. I don't have that. So it's kind of like, it was, it took him a while, but at the same time, we're friends. And that's why I'm like, you don't have to be my boyfriend. We don't have to be in a relationship. We could be friends. And that's one thing I all the time tell my trans sisters. You meet a guy, you don't have to fuck him. Be his friend. sometimes these guys need a safe space to talk and vent because their life is so fucked up. They can't go to their homeboys. Just be a safe space. And I tell people, you're supposed to have the best of both worlds if you're trans, because you were born exactly what he is, and you transition to something that you aspire in your mind and your heart to be. So you should have the number one like person to relate to what he's going through. So be his friend. So certain conversations didn't need to happen because as a friend, I could talk to him about what I was going through and he would accept it. Now, if he wanted to move forward in a relationship, that's on him. I didn't put that on myself to be like, oh, no, I'm your friend. So I should be able to talk to my friend about things without it being sexual. It's just information and knowledge of me. That's it.
So how long were you guys friends?
Oh my God. Okay. So it took me 6 months before I even let him like hang out or chill with me. So, but he texted me every single day. So what he didn't know back then was I was getting into like private crisis management. I had been doing crisis management for a year, but I'm a fixer. And I had been getting into fixers. So I had private investigators at the time and I had friends at the time. And what he didn't know is I found out he had a girlfriend who lived right up the street and they were like breaking up or whatever. But he would come over and we would chill and whatever. But I always kept it very like platonic. Like, we're going to be friends. His mother passed away when he was young from complications from a surgery. And this woman came to me in my dream and she prophesied to me in my dream. She told me that her son, I will be meeting her son and her son is going to break my heart and he can do all these things, but she's just asking me not to abandon her child because he has nobody else in the world. So I was like, oh, okay, girl, I don't know who your son is, but I have a lot of men that at the time I was talking to. So in my mind, I started going through my list, like, is your mama alive? Is your mama alive? Where's your mama at? Like, I started calling my guy friends because I didn't know who she was talking about. Right. And I didn't think to ask Nobian because we were not in a relationship. So maybe like after 8 months, it was kind of like, I told myself, all right, if he wants to have sex with me, I'm going to have sex with him, but I'm going to treat him like a whore because that's my rule. That's my rule.
How do you treat him like a whore? What's the definition of treating him like a whore?
Like what Foxy Brown said, fuck him, check straight to the next. Like, you dispose of them. You call them when you're ready. They ain't no privilege. Like, you come when I call, and then when you want them again, you summon them, and they gonna come running every time. But you treat them like a whore. You don't want to get attached to people, so it's just like you treat them like a whore. But if we have sex before we're in a relationship or anything serious, then I can't look at you any different other than a whore. Because you want to have sex, whore. So I was having one of those 4 nights, and I called him to the house. And I remember the movie that was on. It was Bring It On with Solange. It was that movie, Bring It On. We was watching Bring It On, and we had, like, it was amazing. I was like out of the next level. Like, it was just great. And then I was like, all right, like I was over it. Like, okay, you can come, bye. Like, whatever. And then the next day, he opened up and started talking to me about like certain things in his life and whatever. And then he was like, things have been hard because, I lost my mom and, whatever. And I'm like, huh? What you mean you lost your mama? You ain't tell me that. He was like, I don't like to talk about that with people because, I don't want people to think I'm vulnerable and stuff. But he had told me he had lost his mom. And I just was like sitting there in the car, just shocked, like, huh? Like, and I was like, was your mom like a heavyset woman? And he was like, I described what his mother had on in her casket. And then he showed me her funeral tape. And I realized that the woman in my dream was his mother who passed away. And I just remember her asking me, do not abandon my child. This is coming from someone who's been abandoned by my family. So I'm like, well, how could I be capable of not abandoning someone when that's been my story? So I'm confused, like, what do you mean? And I got emotional, and it was something that had went over me. And I thought in that moment, I just had to be my man. And so I kind of was like, okay, so this is where who I'm meant to be with. This is a sign from God. And then he got in a relationship. He broke up with his girlfriend, got in a relationship, and he cheated on me and broke my heart. And that was my first heartbreak from like a man that was not like a family member. Right. And I was devastated. I gave myself 7 days to grieve. I did. I put a time on my depression because I see people all the time go through breakups, and it just seems like it's forever for them. And being that I was already in my 20s and I had never been in a relationship with anybody, I had already was like, I'm giving myself a certain amount of time to grieve. So I grieved for 7 days. And then after 7 days, I basically said to him, look, I don't want to be in a relationship with you. We could just be friends. At that point, he would not give up on relationships. And I kept telling him, you have to change who you are. I can't be the person that you hurt, but then you come running back to me. So go out there, live your life, live in the world, do what you want to do. I'm your friend first. I was going to treat you like a whore anyway, but your mama saved you. So I'm your friend first, and just go out into the world and just live your life and have fun. And that's what he did. He went out and he did his whorish things, and he would come back and tell me stories about all the girls he was whoring with, trans girls, regular girls, different, just different experiences. And I would always listen to hear if he had, touched the penis, because if that was the case, it was not going to be for me ever again. And that's why I draw the line. Like, so I would listen closely, like, well, what happened? Like, oh, tell me what happened. So being a friend, I got to know him and I got to know his fuck-ups and the type of person he was. Then the second time around, he came, he was like, I want to try this again. But I was already numb to the heartbreak and I gave myself time to grieve. So I was like, look, we could be back together, but the next time you cheat on me, I'm going to cheat on you. And you don't know who I'm going to cheat with. At the time, I was working with NBA basketball players, NFL football players, a whole bunch of movies. So if you cheat on me, I'm going to have sex with a celebrity. And I'm going to let you know who that person is. And it's probably going to be someone that you know, and I'm going to make you very, very jealous. So now, anything you can do, I'm going to do better. So
I want to go back to something for the audience, because we get a lot of questions, and I don't want to offend you, and I don't want to.
You want to offend me.
Okay, so when you bring a guy home, right, mm-hmm. as a trans woman, mm-hmm. and you treat him like a whore, as you say, mm-hmm. and you say it's ways to maneuver. Mm-hmm. But like, if a guy is really, really into you and he just want to love your body, how do you, like,
you maneuver?
How do you maneuver? So I actually want to know, because I don't know.
Okay, I'll tell you. So when you are a trans woman, you are desired by a lot of people. And at the time, I think I had plenty of fish. That's why I met my husband on Plenty of Fish. I had Tag, I had Plenty of Fish. I never had Jack. I never had Grindr. I didn't have any of the gay sites. I would always find my way to the straight site. But I would always put, I'm trans, just so y'all know, like, I'll put female, but I'm trans, And you'll be surprised the amount of people that either A, didn't believe I was trans, because they'll be like, well, I've seen other trans women. You don't look like other trans women. That's because I've never had plastic surgery. I've just gone through the hormone therapy process. So I don't look like something I'm not supposed to look like. And I wanted to be authentic to my own transition. Even my voice, this is the same voice I had my whole life. When I was younger, they told me my voice was too deep. My voice was too light, to be a boy. And now my voice is too deep to be a woman. So I just made a decision, like, this is my voice. I know how to speak up. I know how to speak down. This is where I choose to be, because it's natural. It's natural. I don't want to pretend. But when the guys desire you, you set the tone. You don't invite somebody to your house that wants to suck dick. That's not for me. Have I had those experiences before? Yes, I have. I've had those experiences where, and I call it slutting you out. I've been slutted out in college and different people. I've invited people, even in college, I had sexual encounters with people, and I wouldn't have those preliminary conversations because in my mind, just because the guy wanted me, I felt like, oh, damn, I got to go do something with him. So I would end up in these situations where I'm thinking I'm going to be here with a nigga, like a thug. I like, like a drug dealer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm thinking I'm going to be with a little dangerous because I'm a little perfect patty, like growing up, like little goody two shoes. And I'm trying to be on my bad side. And you trying to.
So, but what about the ones that were not on the site that maybe you met, that looked at you and just really didn't know?
Listen, Everybody's a red flag for me. That's how I've never been in a situation where I've been robbed. Everybody's a red flag in real life. Everybody. I treat every man that approaches me in public the same way I treat every man on the internet. The internet allows me to scour through, but at the same time, I have to desire you. And that's what a lot of trans people don't think. They think because the man wants you, that you have to give yourself up in that moment. I have to desire you. So you can want me all day, every day. If I don't look at you and get my spirit, it's like, I've never had a bad encounter. And I could say that honestly because I treat everybody the same. Everybody's guilty until proven. That everybody. If a man come up to me, you beautiful, you got a wife and 20 kids, and you owe child support. Everybody. Until you prove me otherwise, everybody. So I have done a very good job at avoiding some very crazy situations. And I have friends who I hear stories, I'm like, bitch, you went through that? And they be like, girl, you act like you ain't never been through nothing. I haven't.
So wait a minute, you still didn't answer the question. How are you maneuvering? Because you said, okay, I'll tell you. How are you maneuvering? Because I want to know too, shit. Like,
yeah, and like really, I am in a relationship with a trans woman, but I knew she was trans beforehand, so that wasn't nothing I was shocked. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I can't explain it. And being with someone that long and them never seeing that part of you.
No, he knows I'm getting the sex change and stuff. He's supportive. He's been to the appointments and stuff. When it's time for the doctor to take my clothes off, I'm like, baby, you want to wait outside? He's like, yeah, sure. I can say even with my husband, he respects me and he respects my boundaries. There were even times in our relationship where he was afraid to have sex with me because he knows of my sexual history. He knows that I've been molested. He knows that I've been raped. He knows that I have these experiences. So he's cautious. He's very cautious. And he's like, what makes you feel comfortable? And I'll do what makes you feel comfortable. And that's why I love him so much. He doesn't pressure me to expose. He doesn't pressure me to, love all. No, it's just he understands because we have that relationship where I can tell him everything and he understands how to maneuver. Now, a lot of the guys, to be honest with you, look, before I met my husband, if I met a guy and he wanted to do something with stuff down there, I didn't stop him. Honestly, that was kind of like the little kid in me who got raped. I didn't stop the guy from grabbing the back of my neck when I was in boarding school from, doing what he did. I didn't stop the family member from forcing me to perform sex on her or do things. I didn't stop. There was no one there to stop. So when I do have these encounters with guys, sometimes it's like, if they want to suck my dick, like back then, if that's what they want to do, I didn't stop them. But it was also the most cringy, uncomfortable feeling. And that's when I had to like switch who I hang out with, who I have sex with. And that's when I became in control of, I have to want you because I'm going to know that I'm going to deal with the man that don't want to be a part of that. Some men don't want to be a part of that. Some men do the avoiding for you because they're attracted to the femininity of it. But some men don't really, and thankfully for me, a lot of the guys, they're attracted to me and my mind and my person and the person that I am. It's never just been like, take off your clothes, I want to put the shit out of you. It's never been that. It's always been respect. I carry myself with respect. So when I desire you, I get to ask the questions. Do you like dick? And if they say, yeah,
it's not for me. All right. So
we gotta bring her back.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're definitely gonna invite you back because it's so much content that I'm trying to process it, but stay on task. Because I'm kind of stuck on maneuvering. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But
and the audience is gonna be stuck on that.
Okay.
And I know. And the thing about it is, when you're on the proper hormone therapy, it goes away. Kind of. It kind of hides. It hides itself.
Okay. Yes.
It hides itself.
I can attest
like,
to that.
Being Jamaican, I was blessed in that area, and being on hormones, the blessing went away. And I was cool with that. And I asked my doctors, is this normal? They said, yeah. Like when you're ready for your surgery, I'm gonna have an easy transition to my SRS because I have done what I'm supposed to do with my hormones. So, It's not uncomfortable. Even like during sex, it doesn't like erect. It doesn't, there's no like, oh, it's none of that. It's just, it's there.
Yeah, got it. See, that makes sense. Like now I'm like, okay, now.
Okay. But I have trans sisters who are strict top, and I ask them like, how do you initiate? Like I like even for me. So I'm learning even for myself. I've never considered myself to be like a bottom or a top. Even like when I would meet guys, they'd be like, "Are you a top or a bottom?" I'd be like, "You're not for me." That's how gay men talk. No shade, but top bottom, that's gay conversation. I'm a woman. Address me as such. There's no top or bottom. Now, if I ended up with a guy who was like, "Babe, I love every part of you," and I felt comfortable enough in my discovery of that to go further with certain stuff, then maybe, yeah, sure. You know, maybe it's a comfortable thing, but I thank God he's never put me in a position where a man was comfortable enough to be like, no. And when I started setting the tone for it, it was very much like, do you like this? Do you like that? If you did, you're not for me. And the guys would be like, man, you tripping. I'm like, you want me to invite you to my house to have sex, but the first thing that you want to do is give me hay? You could go, that's not my, and I'm not saying it's not for each its own. That's just not my cup of tea. That's not for me.
I got you. And I understand that. Like, I think for all of us, we all have sexual preferences, and gender and sexual preference have nothing to do with each other. Absolutely nothing. So I think we definitely understand that. But so now he goes from friend, boyfriend, cheats, break up, you get back together.
He cheats again. And then I cheat on him.
So you did cheat on him. Okay.
The second time. But he was still my friend. So my anger didn't last very long. It was like maybe, I think the most we went was like a month. And then I would call him again and be like, oh, you back on your bullshit? And then it would just be like, no. And then the third time, I was very intentional. Because for me, 3 times is the time you're out. That's it, right? I said, there's a lot of mental health things going on with you. And I would like for you to see somebody. And at first he was like, huh, like thought I was crazy. And my husband took a very long time to open up and be himself with some of the things that he's been through with the trauma in his life. So I basically was like, even if you just go see like a life coach, somebody. And the third time, I just remember he made the choice to go get a life coach, to get a counselor. And he started to just change. And I was still his friend. And he was going through his own troubles in the world too. So even though he was at my house, he'll be in the guest room and I'll be in my room. And it'll be like, I have boundaries and you're going to respect, I'm going to respect you to go through your process, but I'm not going to just throw you out in the street and then get a phone call that you died. That has happened to me before with guys that I have like become friends with. And I've tried to take it to that level, but the energy's not there. And then they die, and they die from an overdose, or they die because they were, starting to sell drugs. And I just was protective over him as a friend. And the third time, it was like a whole different person. He started to change. And we have to go through a lot of other challenges too. But I think at that point, he realized like, she don't have to stay and wait for me. At the time, I didn't. So, monkey see, monkey do. You cheat on me, I'll cheat on you too.
So as the cis-gender,
even to this day being married, I tell him all the time, look, man, I can't control you. I used to be very insecure. Check his phone, who he texting, who all the girls in the community used to be like on top of him, like popular girls. And I used to be like, oh, this what you like. This what you like. But of course I was being petty. As I started to get old, I started to realize like, look, I'm a different breed of trans woman. I know that I am. And you can go settle for anything that you want to settle for, but I'm not going to lower who I am for anything. So it is what it is. He became a whole different person. And within like 2 years of him like starting his life coaching and going through his process, he proposed, and he was very intentional about it, because he just realized like, bro, you're not the only one. Not only are you not the only one, I'm a catch. In real life, I'm a catch. I'm not going to be out here spending your money or expecting you to take care of me or none of that. And my friends think I'm stupid. Like, oh, you got a man in your house and you don't pay rent. I was able to pay rent before he got here on my own. So what makes you think I'm going to now say he got to split rent with me? If I wanted a roommate, I would go to a roommate that come and get a roommate. He lives in my house because I pay the bills. And I'm not saying I'm a control freak, but a lot of trans women rely so much on what a man could do for them. But I'm like, girl, what could you do for yourself?
Yeah,
So
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Like you got to, I think we all should pick people that can take care of themselves, whether you're here or not. You know, I should be able to pay my bills. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
he wasn't no bum now. He had a job. He was working, but I didn't have my hand out. Like, I didn't.
That's a bonus. That becomes a bonus. I think for real bitches, that's a bonus. Like all the stuff that you want to do, great, but you don't have to do anything over here because I can pay my bills. I've always been that way too. Never been in a situation where you could come over here and I needed you.
Yo, and I never asked.
Yeah.
On his side,
I'm with his girlfriend and stuff. Never asked ever.
on his side, has he ever had any pushback from any friends or family?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so you don't want to get to this story? Okay. So he basically, when me and Logan were dating, I kept him a secret. He didn't keep me a secret. I didn't want people in my business because at the time, I was working with a lot of reality TV people. And everyone kept asking me, like, what's my love life like? And, you know, every producer at the time wanted me to do TV. They said I had a great personality. I have a great story. They wanted.
So you operated like a gay man, or?
No, they loved the idea of me living in between my fake beard and being a trans person. Because I was a down low trans woman. I for sure was on the down low as a trans woman. For sure. But I mean, I had boobs. I used to have to wear a binder. I used to have to like wear compression thigh socks for my thighs to look smaller. Like I was like a lesbian.
Yeah.
I had a friend who was a stud, and she used to buy my boobs for me to make it look like I have a small I'm serious. Like, I was like, no, because you have to understand when you're in a fight or flight, you don't care what you do, but I cannot be an escort every single day of my life. I can't. And that was like, at the moment, I'll do whatever I need to do. And this was after getting rejected by major companies and corporations to work there. And I was like, I got to do something. Thankfully, my Spelman sister at the time, she's older. She had a PR agency. It was one of the biggest PR agencies in Atlanta. She was on her way to Dubai, I think, when I called her on the plane. She said, we have a position open, whatever, go do the position, X, Y, and Z. And that's how I kind of, you know, excel from there. But everyone was like, do TV. Trina Braxton, Tawanda Braxton, Tamar was doing a show about dates. They wanted me to come audition. They was like, wear your beard. So I had a fake beard on, but my boobs was up high, like the bearded woman. And my whole thing was, bitch, I look like a woman, but there's women in America who got beards. So you ain't finna sit here and tell me I'm not a gay man. You know what I'm saying? Bitch, I'm a woman, but at the same time, I may have a fake beard on my face, but it's women in America who got beards and mustaches and goatees.
And they're real.
Right. So for me, I'm Jamaican. All of my aunties got chin hairs coming from their head. Like, that's normal. That's normal. So we started to go through this process, and then he went to the radio station that I had an interview at. It was B103 at the time, WALK B103. I had an interview about relationship. Angela Stanton was supposed to be on. You know, she hates trans people. And she was supposed to be on because I guess they were going to ambush her with me. Because the thing about it is, I don't debate with people about anything about my womanhood is real because I'm real. So you're not going to have me debate about what you think I should be or what you think I am or what you think I need to be or be able to do that. Okay. Because I could debate about what type of woman I think you need to be. And you're not going to like that, are you? So I think they did that because they know I'm not a non-confrontational person. I could exist in any room that I walk into. I'm proud of who I am. But he showed up at this radio station and basically told all of Atlanta that he was in love with me, and he confessed his love for me on air. And I was like, because again, I didn't keep him a secret in that regard. He didn't keep me a secret, but I was just a private person because in my mind, I'm like, I done been through the 2 breakups. God forbid I put you out in public and a bitch that you don't fuck with before is gonna be all up in my inbox like, ah. So I was just like, no, you're not gonna even give me that the room. And I was raised by two Virgos. FYI, I'm a Taurus. When you raised by two Beyoncés, I'm gonna call them that. When you raised by two Beyoncés, you become very like the world don't got to know everything that you could give them what you want them to know. They don't have to know everything. So when he did that, I was like, babe, do you not know what you just did? He was like, I don't care. He was like, we broke up. And at the time, like, he really did a lot to fix my heart when he broke it. The thing about it is, it wasn't that much fixing to do because I only gave him 7 days of heartbreak. And I did it. I'm giving you 7 days to grieve, cry. I cried. I ate crab legs every day. I ordered all the fattening foods, fried chicken. I gained like 30 pounds. And after that, I was over. So when he came back around, I was over it. And I was like, damn, I thought it was going to be worse than that. Like, growing up, I was the friend that used to make fun of everybody in relationships. Mm-hmm. So when I used to see my friends go through breakups, it was like the end of the world. So I was expecting the end of the world. Girl, I was in LA at the time doing award season with all this Snoop Dogg compound. I was living life. So my heartbreak was short-lived. So him coming back around, I didn't have a grudge or I didn't have all this vitriol inside of me. I was like, what you want?
I think that's a gift, though. I don't think
yes.
It's easy to do what you've been able to do. I think it's a gift because most people are down for a little bit.
I know.
Yeah.
No. My down came from my insecurities in the relationship, trying to rebuild after the cheating.
Yeah.
That's where my kind of period of insecurity came from. And it's again, it showed up at different places. So he came out and everything was cool. People were like, oh my gosh, Chanel. I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Maybe like 3 weeks later, I got a message on social media from his baby mama. Mind you, they were not in a relationship. She was a one-night stand. It wasn't like anything serious. He wasn't even ready to be a dad. She had the baby to spite him because she wanted a boyfriend. And my husband was like, I don't have a mom, and I'm watching how you treat your mom, who's a white woman, who's also a sovereign citizen, who don't believe in the law, who, do all these crazy things. So she wrote me, and then all of his aunties started reaching out to me on Facebook. The girlfriend, the baby mama, had reached out to everybody and told everybody that he was on the radio and shared the clip of being whatever. So I watched my husband lose all his friends, all of the friends that he had that I have known since I got with him. All of his friends gone, every last one of them.
His relationship?
No, just his friends, like people he went to high school with, his friends, like his friend group. Okay. Yes.
Isn't that because they knew you were trans?
Huh?
Because you were trans, because they passed away?
Because I was trans. He lost all of his friends. And it was like, to this day, I still have insomnia. So when that happened, I used to stay up and watch him sleep. And I was so nervous that he was going to commit suicide. So even to this day, I have problems sleeping at night because I used to force myself to stay up so that I would have to see him wake up, get ready for work, and leave. Because I was like, if I go to sleep and he's in the middle of the night and he reads a comment or he sees something, he's going to go and commit suicide. And this was right around the time, I don't know if you remember, there was a guy in Philadelphia who had said, yeah, I like trainees, so what? And he ended up committing suicide because he thought the girl was going to leave him. So at that point, I was very vulnerable, and I heard so many other men who have committed suicide. And I was like, oh my God, like all of his friends, female friends, the ex-girlfriends, was reaching out everybody. People he used to work with at like the job he used to work at, high school people, everybody. And it was from his baby mama, a female, exposing him to his aunties, everybody. The aunties reached out to me. They were like, you ain't trans. I'm like, I am. They're like, I've seen trans girls. Come to find out, his mother was a huge trans advocate. She had a lot of trans women at her wedding. At her funeral. She used to just involve herself with the community. She used to go to balls. She used to go to the pageants. She used to go to all that stuff. So Novia has been introduced to his mother's acceptance of people from a very early age. So when I found out, I was like, oh, okay. And he took it like a champion. I think he did go through some depression. I just think he's good at hiding it, but I think he did go through like a spot of depression. Yeah, that broke my heart.
I think most of us would, right? People that we call friend, people that we love, family. And then because of who I decide to sleep with and be with, you don't love me anymore. We're not family anymore. That's difficult.
And mind you, we were together for like 3-4 years prior to this even coming out. So in his mind, he was like, I'm the same person. I've been with this person on and off for all this time. So why would you think I'm changing? But his friends even some friends that he had sexual encounters with trans women with were like looking at him crazy. Because it's okay to have sex with a trans woman. It's not okay to fall in love with her and become a wife or turn her into a wife. It's okay to fuck her, but it's not okay to fall in love with her. So it was sad. That part was sad. Even to this day, I haven't met my husband's father. He lives right up the street. He wasn't at our wedding. His grandmother has been really nasty to me. And it went from being full of acceptance, even with his family, to just downhill. It just that out of everything, even though I have a happy disposition, that broke my heart the most. Is like watching him lose people that I would hear him talk about. These are people that I haven't met, but I would hear him talk about it as a friend. He would talk about his homies and all his buddies and what they was doing. You know, they do the little street stuff and, you know, and watching all of them disseminate from his life, that put me in like a state I felt guilty. I felt like I was the reason. And then when the baby mother inserted herself with the baby and the, you know, child involved, that just took a turn for the worse. And it's been turning ever since.
Let's switch gears again and talk about something that's a little more happy.
Okay.
The wedding. The wedding is public knowledge. It's everywhere. You looked absolutely beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
It looked like you had a lot of support from family and friends, but who are these people? Because you had a host of people there. I saw somebody helping you get ready.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the wedding.
So my wedding experience, for legal purposes right now, I can't talk about the experience that we went to, but it was documented for a major network.
Right.
There's some stuff going on with the shakeup at BET, MTV, and VH1, the whole Viacom shakeup. So I can't really talk too much about what's taking place with that. But my wedding was a euphoric blessing. I had people that I went to high school with at my wedding. I had people that I went to middle school with at my wedding. I had people I went to elementary school with at my wedding. And I could truly say that these are people who have seen me go through abuse from my father. They've seen me come to school with black eyes, and I've lied about why I have a black eye. They've seen me go through life. Regardless of my transition, they see me as a human being. And those are people that I've always stayed connected to. Because my family abandoned me at such an early age, my friends became somewhat of family. Not all of them, because I'm very much like, I'm an introverted extrovert. I like to be alone and to myself in the house, away from people. But if you put me in a setting and environment, I won't just clam up. Oh, hey, y'all, like, I'll make my way. But you have to force me to be in the room. So my wedding was it was literally like everyone who had a significant part of my life coming up from like my two Mason of Honors were my best friends from 6th grade who have watched me go through the transition. The guy that married us was my husband's life coach who turned his life around and ended up counseling us for our wedding. So there are people that have been significant to us at the wedding. Casey Anthony was at my wedding. Surviving R. Kelly parents, Joyce and Savage was at my wedding. Surviving R. Kelly producer, Tamara Simmons. These are people that I love in the industry. Some of my industry controversial friends. Tamara's not controversial. She's the bomb. But some of the other people was like, girl, what you doing here? But a lot of people came from Florida. And then I have like my Morehouse brothers and the LGBT community within the AU Center, Spelman, Morehouse, Clark, a lot of them that I've kept in touch with since Morehouse all showed up for my wedding. Spelman sisters, Morehouse brothers. Out of my whole family, I had maybe three cousins in total. 3 cousins. One of them didn't even want to walk me down the aisle, for lack of a better term. I think he was just embarrassed of how the family was going to look at it or how the family was going to portray. And then Nobian had maybe 3 or 4 family members.
So predominantly friends there then.
Chosen family.
Yeah.
Chosen family.
So why did you decide to document it? What made you say, okay, I'm going to document this and show the world?
Well, 2 reasons. One, they called me. I didn't go looking for it. And I always feel like if someone finds you or they know you and they're in casting, then it's an opportunity and you want to explore it. But 2, they really kind of stole this idea of me being like the first Black trans woman to get married on TV ever. So in my mind, I thought about, I wanted to go to the courthouse when my husband proposed. I didn't want a wedding. My husband wanted a traditional wedding. He wanted to have a traditional wedding. Like the groomsmen, the bride. I was like, can we go to the courthouse, please? And just do a big ass backyard party with seafood and we could just like get drunk and, you know what I'm saying? He was like, nope, I want to get married. I want to have a pastor. I want to have, he's very like, this is what I want. I said, okay. In the midst of us planning it, we were supposed to get married on his mother's birthday in 2021. Then COVID hit, so we lost our deposit, and then so it was like a whirlwind. So we ended up finalizing a date, and then maybe like a week later, I got a phone call from a really good friend of mine who's the head of casting for a major network. She's like, Chanel, we're casting for this show. We're looking for deserving brides to do a dream wedding. And I was like, what? Girl, that's not real. Because I worked on David Tutera's My Fair Wedding for years. I was one of the publicity coordinators, so I know how this shit works. I was like, get somebody else to do it. And she said, Chanel, you will be the first. And she had a long talk with me about representation. She had a long talk with me about me not being in the shadows, because before this, I don't like to consider myself representation of a community. I'm a representation of me. I think oftentimes people like to take on the full force of having an opinion for a whole community. When the backlash happens, the community is not there to support the force that you took on. So I'm a very firm believer, trans, gay, lesbian, you're supposed to stand tall for you. If you feel compelled to stand up for your brother or sister or likewise, then you do that in that moment. But I don't take on the community as far as being the representative of, because my story is not indicative of what the majority of trans women have been through. And I have been told by trans women in the community, I should not have gotten married. I look clocked. I still look like a man. I need to go get some plastic surgery. And this is coming from my trans sister. So when I say that I'm not really a person that be trying to be all about community, it's no. I have some people I love in the community, but my own sisters, I could count on maybe 2 hands how many trans girls I actually can call and say, I need help with my hormone therapy, or I need help with it. That's the truth. I have never fully felt embraced by the trans community in Georgia, in Atlanta, ever. And I've been around for years, since the Purple Dragon was a drag show down to the 7th Prince Street.
That was long.
I was the show director for Monty St. James for the ATL's Purple Dragon. Sanaya Bonet. Trinity K. Bonet has been my client for 10 years. She's my gay grandmother. I have been connected. Deandra Cassadine, big entertainers I have been around for years. Damani Hall Dickerson is my uncle. Taji Iman, Naisha Dupree, Raquel, I have been around these people. And they used to always look at me like dainty fish. They used to always call me, oh, she's so dainty fish. Because I used to come around with very little makeup on. Because I didn't have this sense of glam or whatever. I was like, girl, I'm a woman. Like, okay, you might think I look ugly today, but bitch, your mama looked ugly yesterday too before she puts the makeup on. So I've always been that girl to be like, you're not going to try to make me dress up for me. Like if I show up to the club and I'm here to help, that I should be here to help. So I don't think they really took me serious. They used to just be like, girl, you need to put on some makeup. I remember I did a drag show. I did a song called Here's Why I Stand. And that used to be my favorite song because the 708 Cash used to do it for closing. Here's what, here in the dark, I stand before you. Yep. That song. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to perform that at Chaparral. And they had Tipsy Talented Tuesdays with Queasy Alexandria St. James. And she used to say, welcome to Tipsy Talented Tuesdays. And I'm like, I want to do a drag show. I didn't know who this person was, but I'm going to go up there. And I remember the judges dragged me for filth. They were like, where's your drag? Like, you look too much like a woman. And then they was like, you sung a song that has choir members and it has 6 different parts in it, but you singing lead. There's no lead in the song. And I'm like, I don't care. Here's where I stand. Here's who I am. Like, I was just, and then they was like, girl, this is not for you. And I remember Damani came and he was just like, some people are not meant to do drag and some people are meant to help. And then I was like, well, I had no one to help me. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have that experience. So I was like, okay, drag ain't for me. Prostitution ain't for me. Escort ain't for me. So I just kind of recluse myself from.
And you never did it again?
Huh?
You never did it again after that?
No, the only way I would ever do that if I was filming for a TV show and that was something that they documented so they could see why. It would never be me doing it for extracurricular activities because I feel like I'm going to be 35 soon. So I kind of feel like, oh, the ship has sailed. And then, I was younger, just trying to fit in, but I've been around.
And everybody doesn't have to be an entertainer. Like,
no, I just like to, and I like to support, but I could tell you, I've never been to a pageant.
That comes to the Trans World pageant. We're having a Trans World pageant.
I know Alfonso. I saw Alfonso. Yeah. So me and Alfonso went to Morehouse at the same time. I love Alfonso. They mean so much to me. Jamel, I love Jamel.
And you did graduate, right?
Huh?
You graduated it?
No.
No? Are you finished?
No. No. When I transferred to the University of South Florida, I transferred into the master's program because I transferred into Morehouse. So when I left Morehouse, I had way more than 120 credits. When I transferred to the grad program, they accepted me into the dual enrollment. So I finished at another institution. I refused to put Morehouse College on a degree or a diploma for me. When I was at Morehouse, they treated me like hell. They implemented a dress code policy for me and 5 other individuals, the mean girls of Morehouse. They bullied me. It was the worst experience. I refused. A few years ago, they called me and said, hey, you have a few Crown forms to finish, and then we can go ahead and process you. Y'all can keep it. I make 6 figures now, the honest way, starting from being homeless in my car to now being able to work from home, making 6 figures with the #1 documentary on. No. If I go back to school or if I want to further my education, it has to be because God comes down from above. I don't come from parents who instilled educational values in me. When I got accepted into Morehouse, my parents didn't even know what a Morehouse college was.
Yeah.
So I went to Morehouse to get away from the abuse of my parents. And I just felt like going to college would be great because they have housing, they have food. I don't have to be in New York sleeping on, Central Park benches anymore. And that was my whole goal. But I didn't have a desire. I didn't want to be a Morehouse man. That was never my desire. I went to Morehouse to find myself, but I also went to Morehouse to realize that Black people are a public enemy #1 for me, and they treated me absolutely horribly. We're not just talking about the community. We're talking about the gay men on the campus. Ask Alfonso what I had to deal with. Because Alfonso that you guys see today, when I was at Morehouse, total opposite. And to this day, they always say to me, seeing you in that realm at Morehouse pushed me to where I am today. Alfonso always tells me that, and I always give him gratitude, 1,000%. I always give gratitude because I feel like these are the people that saw me being myself when they were not even themselves, and now they're their full authentic selves, and I just, that makes me happy. But I refuse. Morehouse was the worst experience of my entire existence of life. I'm grateful for the relationship that I have with the people there. But if I was to go back to school, it would be Spelman, because Spelman College they now accept trans students. Morehouse now accepts transgender students for men, which I don't know how that's gonna work.
And I said this earlier, that we are discriminated against within our own community.
Yes.
And it's pretty bad. And I don't know.
I've had more hate from African-American people than I have from white people. I've had more colorist issues from my people that I have. Majority of my friends growing up were white. I never felt racism. My dad hated white people. I felt racism from that end. But as far as me being treated poorly because of my skin color, never. I don't have that experience. So even with that whole thing that, I don't know if you guys remember the brawl, the Alabama brawl, and everybody was like screaming like, oh, Black reparations. I said, well, are y'all going to be ready for when the white people retaliate to what they just saw you do? Are y'all going to be ready for that? Because y'all are cheering now. But I also said, what if the security guard was a trans person and all his coworkers knew that he was trans or she was trans and they watched him get beat up? You think it would have been the same response? No. So y'all want me to cheer for this when what he just hilarious just a few weeks ago made it very clearly publicly known that trans people are public enemy number one to a Black woman. Don't call me cis. Don't call me that. I've never walked into the room and say, where my cis women at? I don't walk into the room and say, hi, I'm trans. Nice to meet everybody. No.
And so never have to disclose if they're straight or who they sleeping with or so we should know.
For me, I don't, even like when people, like even some people in my Morehouse community, like, oh, you didn't finish. And I said, no, I didn't finish, but I finished somewhere else. I didn't need to finish at Morehouse, okay? I went to Morehouse to find myself, and I found about Black history. I learned about my Black history at Morehouse. I didn't know about the history of Martin Luther King. I grew up in private schools or Jewish schools or schools that didn't really implement this stuff. So Morehouse taught me a lot about Black culture. I learned how to publicly speak at Morehouse. I found out how to do so much, but after the article in Vibe magazine and that whole debacle, it's just, no. Which now they're documenting in a documentary. So it's going to be put in television form. So I'm happy I did it because, the little checks is clearing around here. No. So I'm happy for that. But when I look at some of my Morehouse family members today, a lot of them are not even doing well in their careers. A lot of them that had this pompous thing about Morehouse College are struggling to find their way in life. And, thankfully for me, God saw fit for me to just be on a trajectory where my education wasn't going to be determined, because degree or not from Morehouse, I still wasn't going to get hired nowhere. I still would have to pay the fake beard on my face. Regardless of what? So I just think about now, like, what if I had a degree from Morehouse and I'm trying to get a corporate job, but I'm showing up as this person? Then I would have to explain myself. So back then I was like, So I'm proud of the 186 plus college credits I have right now. I contribute a lot of that to Morehouse. Thank you, Morehouse, for helping educate my thing. So I'm happy with what I've been able to accomplish, but I didn't go to college to get a degree. I went to college to find myself, and I did.
Like for us, It's a Trans World podcast stems from Trans World Atlanta, which is a docu-reality series.
I've seen some of the stuff. I said, all right. I've seen some stuff. I was actually going to reach out when it first started and said, do you guys have someone shopping it? Do you guys, because in my mind, I'm like, I have access to a lot of doors right now. So in my mind, I was like, even saying like, where's this show going to be? It's just a YouTube show, because I said to myself, I told my husband this, I said, in 2023, I would love to challenge myself to do ensemble TV. But it has to be the right way. The cameras have to make me look skinny enough. And I'm serious. As a producer, I understand. So I'm like, I want to challenge myself. And I've been offered 3 different shows in the last 6 months that are ensemble cast. I said no to all of them, except for one, which I'm casting for now. But I saw it and I was like, this is the type of show that I need to see on like a Netflix or like a Hulu or like not even a cable network, just like a big streaming platform. So it kind of opens up the idea of these trans people. And I saw Alphonse was on it, then I saw Jamel was on it, and I saw Nick Devereaux, I love Nick, was on it. And I saw like a bunch of different people that I knew. I was like, oh.
What did you see Malik go on?
As the creator.
Go on?
Oh my God.
No, wait, no. So you're on it too?
Yes, he's on it. And Malik is what we consider very confident. So for you to leave him out, I'm sure his feelings was a little.
No. Listen, I didn't watch the episode. I literally just like I went on the page and I only clicked on the people that I know because I'm happy for them. Like I understand what the show is about, but at the time I was just clicking on like, oh, and I saw
that's how I do too. So I get it.
I'll tell you,
like, I don't know that if it premiered somewhere or if it had like a streaming place yet, but
not yet. So we're gonna premiere next Wednesday in Atlanta. And I'm the creator and director of TRANSworld, and
yes, ma'am.
It has not been easy.
I know. Did you guys do you have a home for it, or are you doing it independently?
So I did it independently. I paid for it out of pocket. And it's considered a micro budget, of course, in the industry, but I'm probably right about $53,000 at this point. Out of my bank account because I believed in the project so much, and TRANSworld came to me in a dream. And I called, Malik and said, hey, I have this idea. I think the timing is right. I think the world is ready politically. I think it's the right time. And we did it. And I'll tell you, we've reached out to a lot of people. I'm not going to say any names, but people that are famous and in the industry that are trans or in the community that say they're going to help and then they don't. They stop answering the phone or they don't respond. And that's how it goes. You just keep going. So
you didn't call me.
I didn't. You know what? Before It's a TRANSworld podcast, I just really wanted to have a conversation with you because I've been following you for so long. I never want to be the person to take you for granted, right? Or I didn't ask you to come on and talk about the TV show.
Right.
I really wanted to have a conversation with you. I really find you intriguing. I follow your shit. So for me, it was more about having a conversation, a real conversation about life and what's going on in our communities. But the reality is it's been very difficult. I'm pretty business savvy, so I've been able to navigate some waters. We had Prime pick it up. But then we were having just some technical issues that we're trying to fix. Of course, Tubi picked it up. But we don't have an actual release date yet. Trying to get someone on the phone at Netflix, trying to get someone on the phone at Peacock. It's a challenge if you don't know somebody that's already in the door. You got to know somebody to get there. So
I'm in the door. So I'm telling you this now while it's being recorded. If you need some help, and I'm going to also tell you what a lot of people don't tell you. Sometimes it's not right for the marketplace right now. And instead of some people knowing what the marketplace, like I have the mandates for the next 2 years of what the networks are looking for. I could go to my mandate to look at every major distribution company and tell you, this is the network that you go to. This is the network that you don't go to. The thing about it is it has to be in the market to be sold. And a lot of the times people are not going to tell you that because they don't know that. So for me, I don't waste time on setting up a meeting with a major network if I know what the response is going to be, because if you're going to go down a rabbit hole. So for me, I have agents that tell me, I could give them a log line and a synopsis and they'll tell me yay or nay. And it saves me the time because they have to tell it to the marketplace. The marketplace has an appetite because advertisers know what they want to see. So it's a TRANSworld being at a Peacock. Peacock would probably take it and say, I want 5 of the top trans women in America, not 5 local individuals in America.
Right.
What you're doing right now is very indicative to a Lifetime. And Lifetime would have picked it up like that because you're introducing new scenarios of people to an audience. It's the learning channel. When you look at, so on Lifetime, nobody on there is known. You have to go, and some people be like, I want to be on VH1. VH1 no longer does lifestyle programming. MTV does. That's why MTV has Love and Hip Hop. They have whatever. VH1 is transitioning.
It has moved over to BET, hasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, but then Viacom owns all
VH1 as well. Okay.
MTV, all of that. So they couldn't put Love and Hip Hop Atlanta on BET because people don't watch BET for lifestyle shows. People watch BET for Tyler Perry scripted shows, or they watch BET for Encore, which Carlos King, but I don't know if it's coming back. They don't watch BET to, get a glimpse of the house. No, it's not a lifestyle. There's only a few networks that focus on lifestyle. Bravo's one of them. VH1 is no longer one of them. MTV is one of them, but their audience is Caucasian. So when you watch Love and Hip Hop Atlanta now, the stories are different. You barely see fighting. You see real stories coming to fruition, fibroids, and all these little nuances that we have never really seen before. You're like, how is Jessica White on Love and Hip Hop? You see her talking about music for one scene, and then 5 other episodes, it's all about her fibroids. So
Yeah.
you have to look at the curve that's happening in television. Trans World would do really good on like a TLC. It wouldn't really work in the streaming because streaming is all about who you can bring onto the show to attract numbers. That's all about streaming. Who could you bring to attract numbers? So even if I was to like meet with you, I would say, hey, the format you can sell to a network. You can't sell the cast to a network because the network has to be able to use their cast to sell the show. And realistically, even though we want to document real stories, you have to go to a network like TLC that does not care about the name or how big the person is, but how big a magnitude the story is. And people don't have to.
I love for us to talk offline and see what kind of synergy we can have. I have the first season done, which is 8 episodes.
Yeah.
And we premiere Wednesday night in Atlanta. And matter of fact, I'll send you information. I would love for you to come if you're in town next Wednesday evening.
Okay.
And then Black Atlanta Pride Film Festival asked if they could show an episode as well. We weren't able to enter that film festival because we had missed the deadline, but they reached out and asked if I would like to just show one of the shows as one of their features.
You know what I would do? And I know this is like totally off guard. I would have documented all of this into like one big documentary. And I would have brought it to every major international film festival, just like what Trudy Smith with Kokomo City. And Lena Waithe picked it up after it was done. It was very low budget. It didn't really have much behind it. And now it's in theaters. Now it's world premieres. So I would have taken Trans World and I would have documented it into like a 2-hour documentary, profiling different couples and what they have to go through, and then maybe bringing them all together on an island for a retreat. Number one, you keep your costs down low, but I would bring them all together and see how they interact, maybe bring in some life coaches, maybe bring some, different individuals to kind of help go through certain situations. You would have production. You're going to film the whole season in 2 weeks on it.
We did that. That's exactly what I did. That's exactly. I have a life coach. We're at a retreat. We're on I did all of that.
But I would not have broken it down in episodes. I would have just made it into a dope documentary introducing to the world these individuals and their trans experiences. And then I would have used that to brand the cast, and I would have went to a network after I've been on every of the indie circuits, and I would have asked them for a budget to produce an actual season following the retreat. But again, people don't have these conversations with creators and directors. And a lot of people in the trans space, I'm going to be honest with you, I've been in this industry going on 13 years. I have never been in the same room with another trans person that was Black. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. In PR. And now in television, I'm the only one. I'm Black and I'm trans. Oh, now we got to do the sensitivity training. What are your pronouns? I'd be like, my name is Chanel, like the purse. If you can't figure it out, then I don't know what to tell you. So I think like there's not enough information for dope creators like yourself to be like, take this $53,000. You can rent an Airbnb on an island for 2 weeks, spend $20,000, set up GoPros in the house, and just document people's lives. And then you just save you a whole bunch of money. And then the $30,000, you put that to traveling around the world, showing people how these people live and making it raw and gritty with Jamel's story and Fonz's story. And I would have made it so gritty to where you are emotionally attached to these 5 couples who have to navigate through this, where I would have made them the number one victim of living as Black and trans in America. But that's how the editing goes. The episodes are great, but I think that sometimes what happens is, I just did the Casey Anthony documentary. One episode alone is expensive for the type of quality that you would want in your head to vision to see. And when we have a vision, we don't think about the quality. You just say, we got to get it out. We got to get it out. We got to get this going. But what ends up happening is you lose your audience because they're addicted to quality. They're addicted to it. Even the housewives, there's no real story, but we love the intros. We love, what are they going to be wearing? Yeah. What are they going to be pulling up in today? It's always like a moment. So so even when you watch Kokomo City, the quality is trash, but the stories are just like, what? So I feel like that's where a trans world could have thrived, to where you could have even pitched that to HBO Film. HBO Film got a big budget right now for LGBTQ documentaries and trans inclusive documentaries. Big budget. So I think that kind of just goes to people not even wanting to call back. But again, even for me, I would have told you straight up, all right, let's see what you got. My agents would have said yay, nay. I would have came back and said, we got to work some things out, because if you want to sell a show, you have to appetize the market. Most people think it's the most brilliant idea possible, but then you go to the market and you get one season. Like a lot of these shows trans related get one season and you don't see it come back no more. The only show that has been on consecutively since the beginning is Jazz Jennings on TLC. Yeah. So TLC,
we'll get together offline and we'll talk in heavy detail, because I'm completely open to help and bringing, and even as a producer, like let's make it do what it do.
Yes, because I think it is needed. I saw it and I was like, why they ask me to be, like, I immediately, of course, the cynical part of me, like, why they ask me to be a part of it? And then I saw Alfonso.
I didn't know you then.
I know. No, I'm being sarcastically funny, like seriously. But every time I see a show come out, it's almost like this is what's needed. But I also feel like we're so limited on information, because even the people that are in certain spaces, the celebrities, the big names, they want to help, but they want to help themselves first. Yeah. So I don't have a desire to be on TV. I do know when God decides to put me and my family on TV, it is going to be impactful, because now I'm a mother. I'm a wife to a heterosexual identifying man. I have a lot of stuff going on in my life that people would be mind blown. So I know for me, God has to position me. But until that time comes, I love helping others reach their next level, because what's the purpose? What is the purpose of going through all of these things in my career just to get to this point, to bottle and hold everything in to where I don't want to help? What's the purpose? What would be my divine purpose if God blessed me?
You are God-fearing. I think that's where the difference comes with a lot of people that I've talked with, or didn't pick up the phone or didn't call back. Or it's different when you lead with God. It's just different. You're built different. You process different. And we are very spiritually grounded people, Malik and I, and we're just different. We're different. And I think that's why. And you can easily get offended because somebody doesn't call back or doesn't respond to an email. I never do. It's just motivation. You just keep going. Like, I don't have any hard feelings. It just makes me want to win even more than I wanted to the day before.
I was very close to a big celebrity. Mm-hmm. And when that person found out that I was doing Trans World, they like turned their back on me for no reason. Yeah. So it was like, I see you out here trying to be a star. Like, you can feed your family, but I can't feed mine. You rather for me to just be the help.
I also think that people forget that there's no money in the first 3 seasons of TV as a cast member. Even if you were on like a big show, you heard Nene Leakes said her first season on Housewives, she got $10,000. Her second season, she got $50,000. Her third season, she got $100,000. It grows because people have to grow with the brand. The brand has to elevate itself. So I feel like if you're going to judge a person because they're getting spotlight, that's why I never really ran to the camera. I know I would make great TV, but I also realized there ain't no money in TV. You got to have a game plan. Like I told myself, if I'm going on TV by the end of the first season, I'm going to have a book ready to be out released. I'm going to have t-shirts, handles, on e-commerce. I'm going to have it all. Hair products, a candy cane collection, everything, because it's almost like people get on TV because they think it's going to boost their fame or it's going to boost their whatever. And I've been around enough famous people to tell you that it does not.
Though, Chanel, obviously I'm not in front of the camera and I have zero desire to be. I'm a creator. I'm a writer. I'm a writer first, director second. But for me, it's about creating content that matters, creating content that can change the world, creating content that leads to love and not hate. So it's
and my production company is Transparent, TRANS parent content, trans in big bold letters. I mean, I'm all for that. I 100% believe in what you just said when it comes to not wanting to be in front of the camera. Mona Scott Young, I was on the development team for Love and Hip Hop on the PR side before Jocelyn Hernandez was Jocelyn Hernandez. I remember when Mona brought her first check at the strip club. And I remember no one believed in that little show that nobody knew. The only person that people really knew back then was maybe Scrappy, Lil Scrappy from Nuck If You Buck. They knew about Stevie J from the City area, but they didn't really have like people on there that they knew when they got to Atlanta. And now it's one of the biggest shows, one of the biggest shows to ever come out of Atlanta. So I will say this, and I'm speaking it now because I feel it. Trans World is not a one season, one city show. This is a franchise that will transcend multiple cities with multiple different stories of trans excellence, and it's going to be a success. Now, whether or not you get picked up by a major network or not, that's not what builds the success of this show. The success of the show is built on how you capture it, the quality of how you capture the angles, the camera angles, how you capture something, whether it's verite style, whether it's docu style, whether it's cinematic style. But the story is what's going to change the people's lives, and how you edit the way that the stories are told. You have to manipulate the same way that and it sounds crazy, but the same way that the network manipulate the content that we watch to become enamored with it. Mm-hmm. It's the same way you have to manipulate the content that you produce so that people become enamored with your cast.
It's crazy. And when I copyright Trans World Atlanta, I did Trans World Miami, Trans World New York, Trans World. I think I did 5 major cities. I did 5 major cities because like I'm business savvy. Right? I'm an MBA, so I understand like business just in general, but them business is a little different. But I had the mindset, and when I did the copyright for Trans World Atlanta, I did it for 5 major cities, Trans World Los Angeles, so on and so forth.
And to hear you say that,
yeah, it's kind of confirmation. It's kind of like, okay, God, okay, I'm not all the way crazy. I did not spend, a good percent of my savings to create a show, and hell, I'm not trans.
It's Chasing Atlanta is the #1 LGBTQ show on YouTube. They have a core audience of people. They're back for a new season. The production is very low budget, but even the way that they produce their show, they have Chasing Dallas, they have Chasing all these cities, and all of them have full-time jobs. They work. Again, it's not about anything else other than the quality. Even for videographers, there's a way that you can find real videographers with real production equipment that are freelancing that could come in and really shoot this show to make it look like it belonged on a Bravo or a VH1. That's what it really comes down to, is who's shooting the show and who's editing the show. But once you brand this cast, you have to create the demand of people to be like, why ain't on that show? Why ain't considering the show? Because the thing about it is, all you have to do is start holding casting calls. This is how Zeus Network became Zeus Network. You know, even if you had a network to say, even if you open up a streaming app and you called it T-World or you called it T-Time, for us, by us, and it's all trans content, that's how Zeus came about. That's how all these shows on Chasing Reality, they have their own platform now where they have spinoffs with Oliver Twist, one of my good friends. Oliver went to Morehouse after me. Even someone like Oliver Twist, bringing him on and paying him to be a producer, you would have gotten maybe 80% more quality. And again, he does a lot of this stuff for Chasing Reality. You have to use the talent within the community. And a lot of the time, you think it's unreachable, but you just said, I spent $53,000. And I could tell you the cast probably didn't make any money from this. They just have to share their stories. They didn't make any money. You're out of course, you're investing into it. But essentially, if you would have met me before $53,000, you would have been out of 20.
Yeah.
20. And the other money could have went towards, okay, guys, we got to go to New York for a week. Let's see if we can cast a new team in New York. And then you find partners with money to say, hey, this is what we've done here. This is what we're trying to do in New York. Or you find grant, or you find loan. Hell, you could LLC at the trans world, open up a business account, get a Duns and Bradstreet, establish some credit, and in a year take out a loan for $100,000 under your business. And if it don't work, bankrupt it, like Donald Trump and everybody else do. Yeah. So I'm happy that we met, and I'm telling you now, I am busy, and sometimes I do forget to call people. I'm not gonna lie, I do. But I oftentimes tell people is you have to be okay with calling me and saying, bitch. Remember, like, you have to be okay with that with me, because as you said, yeah, it motivates you. But my brain don't work like that. I'm not a good multitasker. Like, so if I'm on the phone with you, working with you, that's what I'm focused on. If I'm working on 20 other shows, I'm not going to focus on you until you say, hey, Chanel, don't forget about me. Or, hey, Chanel, I need you to have time to talk to you. So you have access to me. I'm a resource to you. I have access to a lot right now. And I have no problem making introductions. I have no problem helping you put it in a treatment package to pitch it to a bigger network. I have no problem bringing it to my agent and telling them what the idea is and seeing if they have. I have no problem helping you whatever capacity. Well, I just want you to know that sometimes my life gets crazy. So you just have to be comfortable with, like, bitch, don't forget about me now. And I won't. I'll be like, oh shit. And I tell people to do that. You have to do that with me, because I will forget. I will. And then having an 8-year-old, oh my God, I have not eaten today. I forgot to eat.
Yeah.
I mean,
being a mom too, I got a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old, and it's a lot.
A whole
being
lot.
a kid for a mom, it's a lot. But I will.
You have access to me. Don't be afraid to utilize it. You're not taking me for granted. I'm a part of, your community. I'm a resource to you. You guys have been nothing but kind to me. So I have no reason other than to say, what can I do to help? I'm not going to lie about what I can do or how I can do it. If I think something needs to be tweaked and we have the ability to tweak it, I'm going to recommend it. And I just want to be like a positive reinforcement for what you guys have. If you guys want to keep it independent, hey, let's keep it independent. But let's try to figure out a way how we're going to utilize with marketing. So we need to have a marketing budget so that every time an episode airs, we have clicks going out to all the gay magazine, neighborhood talk. Like, so we just have to, how you're going to formulate it is how you're going to have to formulate it. My background is public relations, marketing. My career now is television and film. So those two together, you don't even need a network, to be honest. If it's for us, by us, you don't need a network. Distribution would be beautiful. Distribution would be great. But even for your show, and now even we'll talk offline a little bit more about some stuff, but even for your show, it's not just important for America to see stuff like this. This is the type of stuff that we need to see in Europe, in Africa, and all of these places, because it's happening everywhere. It's not just in the United States. And I think that even going into another city, there are unique stories that have not been told. I know for a fact I have never seen my story be told on television, and I probably won't because it's unique to me. But we've kind of seen the same repetitive stories when it comes to certain stuff, and I just feel like we have the space to introduce the most beautiful stories of trans experience and being able to document it in a way that changes the trajectory of how people look at trans people. You have that power and that ability. So you have access to me, please use it. Whatever I can do to help, I'm here. And I need that from the bottom of my heart. I'm not saying that to be your friend or to get on the next season. Speaking of the next season, let
me tell you something.
Y'all listen, y'all want to,
I didn't think it was an option. So, I mean,
listen, I'm gonna need my own show. I can't be on Ensemble. Okay. My life right now is not positioned for Ensemble unless it was like an already existing ensemble or like an already existing show. For a new opportunity, my story is, I'm not saying that to be cocky. I stand alone. I'm being serious. I do.
Hey, I love it.
I do. That ain't cocky or confident. That's what all the white folks is telling me when I go, Chanel, you don't want to push, you stand alone. And I know I stand alone because it's impossible to find. I actually reached out to another trans girl who was married, and I was like, I want to do like a trans wives club. Like, I think we don't have like trans women who are wives, or like we don't have support systems. Trans men have their group. Some trans women have their group, but I'm a wife and I can't tell you one person I could call and be like, how are you navigating? Or it's hard. So you have access to build a brand within a brand. You have access to spin off characters and see them. Like Afan and Jamel, their stories, they have standalone story. I don't know Malik's story. He probably had the standalone story too. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's how unique trans people are. And that's why you don't see too many trans shows out right now, because it's like, if you tell this one story, it's only specific to a one group. So this is bringing groups of people together and it's more specific, but you can easily spin off this character. You can spin off that character. Mm-hmm. And I think that essentially you become a Mona Scott. If you've already sacrificed $53,000 in the next 6 months, you could build up a business credit to take out a $23,000 loan and be able to do each city with $50K each city moving forward. Girl, it takes up on its own. And you start building that organic YouTube following with that monetization and start capitalizing on marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just for it. You know, I'm thankful to be having this conversation. And again, it wasn't my intent. I know. Just wanted to talk about the things that I sent over to you.
I know.
So I appreciate you. I appreciate your heart as well. I know it's not always easy to lead. It takes a special person to lead because a lot comes with it, a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility. So I appreciate you just offering. I appreciate you having this conversation. I'm humbled. I'm thankful. And in the message I sent you, I said, you know, let's talk about, to me, you're Superwoman. Like I'm watching you and following your story. I'm watching all the things you're doing. And then I learned stuff that I didn't even know tonight about you. So I'm grateful. I'm humbled and I'm grateful. We're gonna wrap this one up, guys. It has been an amazing conversation with Mrs. Chanel Hudson, now a mommy.
Yeah, Chanel Hudson Connor. My husband will beat you up in there with a stick.
Oh, fine. We don't want to leave you out, sir. I promise. But you know, now you've been welcomed into motherhood, which I have some experience. I have almost 11 years of experience in motherhood, so I know where you are. I know how difficult it can be some days. I know how exhausting it can be some days, but we do it and we wear the hat proudly. So thank you. Guys, we are going to cut this one tonight. I think Chanel has given us everything we could have asked for. It's always a good time when we hang out at the cookout, and you know how Black folk like cookouts, guys, and we love being here. It's the TRANSwoman podcast. It's all about love, and we want you to know that love is love, and we enjoy talking about the triumphs and the challenges that we face as human. We want the world to know that we're human. We are human. Thank you so much, and until next time, guys, we'll be back with another show of It's a Trans World.